Halloween isn't just costumes and candy. It's chaos on steroids when your child has ADHD. You've got those sugar highs that end in epic meltdowns, dyes that hijack their mood, late nights that wreck the whole week and even the week after. And you're standing there thinking to yourself, why did I even let this happen? But here's the truth. You don't have to choose between protecting your child's progress and letting them be a kid. Halloween can actually be fun, it can be safe and meltdown free without you feeling like the bad guy. Welcome to the Soaring Child podcast, where parents of children with ADHD learn tips and tricks to help their child soar at home, at school, and in life. We feature interviews with experts, medical professionals, and parents just like you who are learning how to reduce ADHD symptoms using food and other natural strategies. Because children with ADHD deserve to soar just like every other child. I'm Dana Kay, your host. Hello, parents, and welcome to the Soaring Child podcast. I'm Dana Kay, your ADHD health practitioner. Look, let's be real, okay? Halloween can feel like a parent's worst nightmare. When you've got a child with ADHD, you've got sugar, you've got emotional meltdowns, you've got artificial dyes, you've got late bedtimes and peer pressure, all wrapped up in a plastic pumpkin bucket. Now, if you've spent months clearing up your child's diet, their gut, ditching gluten and dairy and supporting their behavior naturally, the idea of undoing it all with one chaotic night, yeah, I've been there. So what we're going to do, I brought back one of your favorite guests and one of my favorite guests, Andrea Daigle, our expert ADHD practitioner inside the ADHD Thrive Method for kids, and a mum also in the trenches, to really talk about how to make Halloween work, not just manageable, but actually enjoyable without sacrificing your child's progress or your sanity. So now it's time to welcome back Andrea Daigle to the Soaring Child. Hi, Andrea. Thank you once again for joining us.
Hi, Donna. I'm glad to be here talking about one of our most dreaded or favorite holidays, whichever it is for, every parent out there.
Oh, I love that. I love that. But did you know Halloween's actually on a Friday this year, which is like, we have not had one on a Friday for a very long time.
That will definitely make things a little easier.
Definitely, because there's no school tomorrow afterwards. Now, let's start with candy, okay? What kinds of ADHD-related behaviors can be triggered by the typical Halloween candy that most kids eat?
Well, parents, they often notice this pretty quickly. Those sugar highs, those sugar crashes, all of that can just lead to things like hyperactivity, the mood swings, and honestly, even meltdowns. I can remember a few Halloweens ago, before we started eating healthier and making better choices, my son having a bag of Skittles and just coming home and crying the entire night after Halloween. And then, it's heartbreaking. We wanted to have a fun holiday. And on top of that, you think about the artificial colors, the processed ingredients. That can be tough for kids, especially who have ADHD. And if your child is reactive to gluten or dairy, those things can also bring on that irritability or that brain fog, even digestive issues or sleep issues as well. And so, I guess when parents say, why does Halloween always end up in tears for some? This is definitely a culprit.
Yep, it definitely is. And you put all those together and it's like this neuroinflammatory storm that can like just hijack their whole body. One of those biggest thoughts were for me, especially when I started out this journey with my son, I was like, but what about Halloween? But what about this holiday? But what about this holiday? Many families still want to enjoy trick-or-treating or other holidays. What do you suggest for parents who want to let their kids participate but still stay, gluten, dairy, soy-free, or, artificial flavors and colors free?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in letting kids enjoy the traditions of these holidays, like trick-or-treating. My kids still trick-or-treat. They love it. The key is really what you do after. And some families will do something called a switch witch or a candy fairy. And that's when the kids will trade candy for safe treats or even a toy that's left by the fairy. The other thing you can even do is just stock up on those allergy-friendly brands ahead of time, because even though we don't realize it, we sometimes think that we are the only ones eating this way. There are plenty of people in the community who may also be eating this way too. So stocking up on things like, or brands like Enjoy Life, Yum Earth, or Smart Sweets. You can do a candy swap when the kids get home from trick-or-treating, so they don't feel like missing out, like they've missed out. But you remember the goal here is to protect their health at the same time. So, just being prepared for that and having a plan. My neighbors, I can tell you a story. They also follow a gluten, dairy, and soy-free diet. And so what they do is they offer cash for candy. So their kids go trick-or-treating, and the more candy their kids bring back, they trade it in, and the more cash they get. So there's a few things you can do creatively to make trick-or-treating fun.
Yeah, I love that idea of the cash. That's something that we do as well. My kids are always motivated by cash. I think the most important thing is actually to have that conversation with them prior to Halloween. Have a family meeting and an agreement, so those expectations are already set. So you're not like scrambling at the last moment. Many parents of children with ADHD are afraid to try another thing. I mean, I totally get it. I felt that same way with my son years ago. We had tried medication, lots of medication. We also tried various supplements, lots and lots of various supplements. We tried parenting techniques, essential oils, and different therapies, but nothing seemed to make one bit of difference for my son. But then we tried the strategies laid out by the ADHD Thrive Institute, and the changes we saw in my son with ADHD were absolutely incredible. The ADHD Thrive Institute offers free calls to parents of children with ADHD to help them find the same freedom we found. When you jump on one of these calls, you get the undivided attention of one of their expert team members. They'll talk through the challenges your child is facing, as well as discuss some possible underlying stresses that could be making your child's ADHD symptoms worse. Then they'll give you a customized game plan that can help you fight your child's ADHD symptoms with food and natural solutions. You can book that free call today at adhdthriveinstitute.com/meet. That's MEET. Again, that's adhdthriveinstitute.com/meet. Now let's get back to today's episode. Now, what are some creative ways families can make Halloween feel special without relying on all the candy?
And this is a really good question that we hear from parents all the time. And the truth is, Halloween is so much more than candy. You can still make it magical and fun and do things like a pumpkin carving contest, or even a spooky scavenger hunt around the neighborhood. One year we had some glow in the dark eggs that we hid in the backyard, and we went on a glow in the dark egg scavenger hunt. So, you can do things like that. And when it comes to handing out treats, think outside the candy bag. Everything doesn't have to be around candy. Glow sticks, little toys, or stickers. Kids will go on that like treasure hunt excitement, and you're not fueling that sugar overload.
Yeah, they're great pieces of advice there. You could also like put it on your child. Depending on their age, you could say like, what do you think we should do? How should we make this holiday better? Or how should we make this holiday not just about candy? You'd be surprised what they can actually come up with, what creative ideas. Now, look, I had this concern. I know that a lot of grandparents have this concern. One of those concerns is, is making their child sort of feel different. How can parents explain these food changes to their children without making it sort of feel like deprivation or punishment?
Yeah, this is so important because kids feed off of our energy. So the way we talk about food matters. Instead of saying you can't have this or you can't have that, we say we choose foods that make your brain calmer and stronger. And, I'll be honest, I've been in this place as a parent where I felt like my child was missing out on part of his childhood. And that's when I had to have a real paradigm shift. At first, I saw these changes as somewhat of a loss, what he couldn't have and these traditions that he might miss out on. And is he going to feel different from the other kids? But I realized pretty quickly that if I stayed in that place, then he would start to feel that loss too. So I just really began reframing it, not just for myself, but for him. And I started shifting to looking at it as I'm giving him more, I'm giving him more calm, more focus, more energy, and the confidence to not just enjoy the things he loved, but to still be able to follow in some new traditions that we've created. So we started celebrating these foods that started supporting him, and we mourned the ones that we let go. And so,
Andrea, you are like an expert in this. I that's why I love you coming in. I mean, listeners listening would be like, this girl knows what she's talking about. Yeah. Andrea's helped, over 1,500 families, inside the ADHD Thrive Method, one of the best coaches. But the most important thing is she's done it herself. That's how you can tell whether or not someone actually knows what they're talking about. So let's talk about stress. Okay. What's one practical tip parents can take into Halloween night to avoid overwhelm? Because a lot of our kids with ADHD, they have that overwhelm, that sensory overwhelm, but also us as parents. What tips can we give around that?
It's exactly what you were mentioning earlier, is setting those expectations before you ever even leave the house, because our kids thrive on structure, they thrive on routine, predictability. So maybe you get together and agree on how many houses you'll visit, or how long you'll be out, or what's going to happen to the candy when you get home. But having that solid plan and a full discussion around this is really the key to setting them up for success, because when they know the plan, they're less likely to push back, and then everybody gets to enjoy the night. So you're just taking away those power struggles from that moment, and it keeps the focus on all the fun.
Love that tip. I think, you can even have conversations about, if this happens, then this is how we handle it. Like, if we're running down the road and we've got too much noise going on, what should we do? Or, even practicing saying thank you when someone hands out candy. Like, a lot of these things can really just ease that tension and that stress. And yeah, as you said, make it more enjoyable for everyone. What's one of your favorite Halloween traditions or memories that don't involve candy?
Yeah, we've created some pretty good traditions over the years. We try to make Halloween fun. So we've done pumpkin painting instead of pumpkin carving. There's less stress. There's more creativity around that. The kids can go wild with the paint or the glitter or googly eyes. We've even had monster dance parties where we'll put on a Halloween playlist and let the kids burn off some energy with some, spooky dance moves and their costumes, which is really good for kids who struggle to sit still or who are a little hyperactive. But my favorite one that we do is just a backyard haunted hunt. We hide those glow in the dark eggs or little toys around the yard. We give our kids flashlights and they go on a treasure hunt, and they can have that fun without all the candy involved. So it doesn't have to be stressful, just a little planning and creativity can really help keep things safe and fun for those kids without all those sugar crashes.
Love it. Love it. Now, Andrea, I didn't prep you up ahead of time, and I should have done this. I think I did this in the last 2 podcast episodes. I didn't prep the guest, but I ask every guest this. I mean, you've been on here. Hopefully you remember. If you could share just one small, actionable tip that parents can start using today, what would that be?
I think for today's episode, the one thing I would share would have to be, we need to reframe our own mindset. Mindset is everything. And like I was saying before, our kids really feed off of our energy. So if we are of the mindset that we are bringing about the calm, we are supporting our kiddos and moving in the right direction, and keep that positivity flowing, it will just keep our kids moving in the right direction as well.
Love, 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 love that. It is all around mindset for sure. Andrea, I love when you come on here. We have the best conversations, and like, you are just such an expert in helping families with kids with ADHD thrive naturally. Thank you so much for this super powerful conversation. I always love how real and practical you are, and I'm sure our listeners do as well.
Yes, absolutely. And hopefully our families took away some great tips to enjoy their Halloween this year.
I am sure they definitely did. Now, listeners, if you found this episode enjoyable, if it made you just breathe a little bit easier about Halloween, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with another parent who's quietly dreading the sugar crash, the food fights, or the costume drama. Let's make sure more kids can enjoy Halloween without the meltdown, and more parents can actually go to bed without the guilt. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review if the show helps you feel more supported in this journey. Listeners, thank you for tuning into this week's episode of The Soaring Child. I'm Dana Kay, your ADHD health practitioner. Keep on thriving. Thank you for listening to the Soaring Child podcast today. To learn more about how to help your child with ADHD soar using natural strategies, visit our website at adhdthriveinstitute.com and follow us on social media at ADHD Thrive Institute.